You're listening to the Membership Geeks podcast, bringing you proven practical tips and advice from the leading experts on growing a successful membership business.
Hey there, membershippers. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Membership Geeks podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morrison. I'm the chief geek around these parts. I'm also the founder of Membership Geeks and Membership Academy, and the leading expert in memberships, if you allow me to toot my own horn for a moment. I'm so grateful that you're spending part of your day with me. If you're brand new to the show, be sure to hit subscribe or follow in your podcast app of choice. And if you're a long-term listener, you know that I truly appreciate every iota of attention you're able to give me. If you have a moment spare, I would so be grateful if you could leave a few nice words and 5 shiny nice stars, because, you know, I'm sure that reviews for podcasts come in other variations that don't include 5 stars, but I'm particularly interested in those 5-star reviews. So if we've helped you, if you enjoy the show, if you got some value from it at any point in your membership journey, if you can spare 30 seconds to a minute to just leave that nice review in your podcast app, I would so appreciate it. Not only helps me to know that I'm doing my job right and I'm serving you well, but also the more reviews we get, the more people we can reach, the more difference we can make in this membership world. And while that sounds cheesy, I genuinely mean it, because if you've been listening for a while, you'll know how angry and upset I get by some of the dodgy advice and bad practitioners there are in the membership world. I want to reach more people with the good stuff, with the good advice that you know that I bring. Anyway, today, I want to talk about running a membership team, about being a boss, about managing a team. Now, I will caveat this by saying I don't have all the answers when it comes to running a team. I absolutely don't. In a lot of ways, I'm very flawed. I have managerial experience, but I have managerial experience like in a big company, and that doesn't always translate not only to smaller companies, but also to a company where everyone is working virtually, where it's all, you know, it's a very distributed company. And it's very different being, you know, the owner of a company, the director, the CEO, the founder, and being the boss versus being in a managerial position where you are a cog in a much bigger machine, where you've got the HR department, you've got so much you don't need to think about. But I know that this is something, as memberships grow, as more and more of us are reaching 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, our teams are growing too. And you might be like me. Perhaps, you know, you didn't start your membership with the idea that you were going to have employees. Perhaps you've got a team and, you know, they work well, but you struggle as a boss, as that person. And so I just want to kind of share not how to be a good boss, but how I try to be a good boss. And I would hope my team say I'm a good boss. Like, they've got to listen to this podcast episode. I really hope that they don't just collectively burst out laughing and then start a very mean private Slack channel without me. But I'm quite confident from conversations, from the vibe, from the way the company runs, that I do okay by my team. But I certainly don't feel I have everything mastered. And maybe that's kind of the first part of how I try to be a good boss, is actually not having that arrogance, not having that ignorance to the fact that, you know, I don't have every answer. Just because I start the company, just because I'm an expert in memberships, just because I'm X, Y, or Z, it doesn't mean I'm infallible. Far from it. Doesn't mean that because I'm good at a couple of things that I'm good at everything. Far from it. And just because I've been able to make this business successful, that success doesn't come from everything being, you know, A-star grades, right? There are a lot of very successful companies that are an absolute disaster behind the scenes. So maybe that's, I suppose, the first thing to share is actually having that grounded sense of self, right? Recognizing that I'm doing the best I can, that I need to be open to feedback. I need to be open to the suggestion that I'm not managing people well at any given time, and to recognize that actually I should listen to my team, and I should care about what the vibe is, and I should think about how we work and what the dynamic is and what that feeling is, and I should take lessons from that and stay mindful of it. And that's certainly something I do, and I think that served me well, because I've certainly worked with people where it was very much their way or the highway, where They saw every employee as an extension of themselves who could never be as good as they were. And so they had to do things the exact right way because it's the only way it could be done. It's the only way it's ever, it's just, no. I think your attitude, your mindset, your openness to running a team is so critical. And I try to set myself out to not be too far removed from my team, to not be, the big boss on high who looks down on everyone. These are my minions. And, who cares if they're happy as long as they're productive or what have you. So no, I'm always kind of trying to improve. I'm always thinking about what the general vibe is, how the team's working together, and are people happy? A big thing I also do, and I've actually communicated this at length to the team, is I focus almost entirely on outputs rather than inputs. I don't want people showing up and doing the 40 hours a week that they're contracted to. Was it 35 technically? Yeah. Showing up for their 35 hours, being chained to their desk from 9 till 5 every day, and me using that as the measure of them doing a good job. I think from the corporate world, from being employed, you are expected and you are paid to do your job for a certain amount of hours every single week. You're expected to be at your desk on time. You're expected to work the whole time that you're there. You are measured, judged, and rewarded largely based on inputs, on how hard you work, and there's not enough focus on the output. I honestly, and I've actually told my staff this, I don't care. I don't care how many hours they work. I really don't. If you can do an incredible job and get me the result that I want in 5 hours, you know what? You've earned the ability to take those other 30 hours off and to just, chill out, because you've been able to do something more efficiently. You've been able to get me the result that I want. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm not rewarding people or measuring people based on how much they work. I focus on what that work produces, whether they do the things I've asked them to do, whether we get the results that we're working towards, whether things are done on time, whether the work is done to a high standard, whether the quality is great, whether the members are happy. Those are the things that I care about. And while it's an exaggeration to say, if you can do everything I've asked you to do in 5 hours and do it to a great standard, I don't care about the other 30. I mean, that's not true. But that's mostly because I don't like the idea that you're sitting there bored and twiddling your thumbs and unfulfilled in your job, right? But so many people, I think, when running a team, they're trying to squeeze the most out of their team, more work, overtime. I mean, how many times have we seen situations where people have been chastised? Like, you're clearly not committed enough because you won't work overtime. Or there's so much toxic stuff online, if you're not available to answer calls and emails at short notice at ridiculous times a day, if you have personal boundaries, if you're not at your desk earlier than you're contracted to, if you don't work later, then clearly you're not committed. Your contracted hours are the bare minimum. Who cares? Seriously, who gives a flying donut? Almost swore. Who cares about that? I do not care about your ability to work the most hours. I'm like, that's of zero value to me. It really isn't. The only thing I'm bothered about are the outputs. Are you helping me accomplish the goals of the business? Is your work to a high standard? Do you do it on time? Is everything running smoothly? Are the things that need to get done getting done? I don't want people phoning it in, but I definitely don't judge people and focus on how much they're working, the volume of work. It is quality over quantity. And so, yeah, that lends itself, I feel, to being quite flexible on my part. And don't get me wrong, you might be listening to this, maybe you come from a more rigid corporate background thinking, well, that's just not how things work. I mean, it should be. It really should be. You want someone to stretch a task out to fill the 35 hours. You want someone to just sit there doing just busy work so they don't get in trouble for not working. Or do you want somebody creating incredible outputs, doing great work, getting great results? right? Like, you should not be measuring based on inputs. I honestly do not care. You can get all your work done at the start of the day if everything I've tasked you with, everything that you could be doing, and it's great quality and it's getting the results that I want, and it's moving the needle and it's progressing our projects and working towards our objectives. If you get that all done by 2 p.m., go have the afternoon off. I don't care. Tell me, ask me. And yeah, that feeds into my emphasis I put on flexibility. People don't have to work 9 till 5. I weirdly can't seem to snap out of a 9 to 5. Like I still feel I do my best work starting at 9 and finishing at 5. And a lot of the team do as well. But that's just out of convenience to them. Some people do start later and work a bit later. Some people work part of the day, take a big old break, and then work a little later into the night. Some work a bit more in a couple of days. But I don't have any rigid rules around that. There's certain things that people need to make themselves available for. So live calls, for example, you need to be available. There's no flexibility around coming along and supporting the live calls because they are fixed in the calendar. For customer support and community support, there are tighter expectations. I expect, customer service to be checked at certain times of day. Like, I don't want everything left till 11 p.m. every night. But other than that, it's just flexible. If you do need to take a little time off, and if my team need to go to a hospital appointment, or they need to knock off a little earlier, they want to go pick their kid up, or what good is it to be inflexible if I have the capacity for flexibility? If nothing in the business and nothing we do, and in most cases with memberships, nothing we do should be so life and death that you can't have some flexibility, that you can't accommodate the fact that your staff have lives, that you can't be flexible on when someone starts and when someone ends work. If it doesn't stop the ability for outputs, if it doesn't cause any operational issues, and if you are aware of it, if you know that someone's not going to be around, and if they're reachable, why not be flexible? It's an easy thing to be for most businesses. It's just people choose not to be, because I think sometimes we worry if we don't feel like we have management skills as part of our skill set. I think sometimes we worry that, if I let them do that, if I let them knock off earlier, they've asked if they can start later in the morning, and they've said they've got a migraine, do we mind if we take a few hours out? If I let them do that, is that because I'm a bad manager? Am I letting them walk all over me? No, you're just being flexible. Memberships are a flexible business model in 99% of cases. You don't need to be rigid. Don't need to be inflexible. And again, as long as the work you want doing is being done to the standard that you want and everything is progressing, the outputs are there, you have flexibility around the inputs. Something I also try and make sure I do, and I've got to be honest, I can improve on this definitely, but I do try and keep the team in the loop as much as I can. We have very transparent business. I make sure that, we have a weekly team meeting every Monday. And I participate in those in the same way that I expect my team to. So I didn't used to. It used to kind of be like almost a virtual stand-up meeting where the staff told me what they were working on that week. We have a little daily check-in as well, where people kind of say, how are you feeling today? What have you done since yesterday? What are you working on today? Do you need any help or particular input from anyone else on the team? So this is just a daily thing that's automated in our Slack channel. We use a tool called Geekbot. And although now I'm thinking, is that actually the name of the software, or did we just call ours Geekbot because it's Membership Geeks? I think that's the name of the software. I used to not perform those updates. I used to kind of just I would lead the team meeting. They'd come on. They'd tell me what they're doing. Great, I know what you're doing. Now I participate the same way because we are a team. We're all rowing in the same direction, and it's beneficial for them to know what I'm working on too. I also do at least a quarterly update on any major promotions that are going on, how the last promotions worked, where the performance is, what's happening. So I try and keep the team in the loop as much as possible. I very openly encourage people, if they've got questions about anything, even if it's not related to their particular area in the business, to just ask. I've lost count how many times I just hopped on a Zoom call to just talk through some of the things that I'm working on, just So people were informed to satisfy their curiosity, and for them to kind of, quite often it's like, oh, well, actually, I could do this. I could help in this way. So I try and keep the team in the loop, make sure there's always check-in points. I know I can be better at doing that. I think a little more systemized. Sometimes I do forget to do the quarterly updates on time. I do feel like maybe that's something I could do to a bit more depth monthly. But no, again, that transparency, that team ethic, that openness, those check-ins, and the open door policy has served me very, very well. Something else as well for me, and I think, again, it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that your team are people, is to try to default to compassion, to the most positive assumptions, and to the most generous default perspective of a situation. Whenever something happens, if someone doesn't turn in work to their normal standard, if someone who'd normally be working around certain times and you've messaged them for something and they've not gotten back to you and it's been a few hours, if someone's attitude feels a little bit off, or something's happening that might raise some alarm bells, that might cause some little issues for you, that might make you worry. I think sometimes when stuff like that happens, we can default to the negative. Okay, this is a bad sign. This work's not that great. Okay, is this a downward spiral? Is this the start of something? Or we're going to need to discipline them? Has there been a problem? And I think it's easy to default and assume the negative, and that can colour your whole handling of a situation. But we'll make these assumptions before we have a conversation, before we address things with people. When you're sitting there quite angrily, like, why have the customer service tickets not been cleared this morning? They have to be cleared every morning. You can get frustrated. Okay, this is a problem. What's going on? This is their responsibility. They're getting paid good money for it. It's easy to do that, especially if it's something that is actually having a little impact, a negative impact on the business or on the day or whatever. The shortest path is to a negative default, right? And a negative assumption. You're creating these assumptions from nothing. You're choosing the negative, right? So you could just choose the positive. You could choose the benefit of the doubt. You could default to compassion. If someone's struggling and having a hard time with their mental health, and they're kind of asking if they can have a little extension on work or if they can take an afternoon to sort themselves out. To be compassionate, it's easy. It's a choice. You can either be compassionate or confrontational. It's a choice. You decide. No one's making you be an a-hole to your staff. No one's making you default to the thought that they're trying to screw you over, or, actually, are they starting to slack? Does this mean they're going to quit, or does this mean their work's going to suck from now on? So I always try to default to compassion and to the most positive assumptions. If someone's done something out of the ordinary, if something negative's happened, something's been missed, a mistake has happened. And sometimes this perspective, I do see people managing teams, and I've worked with managers, where they are very quick to make mountains out of molehills, almost to reassert their authority. Or maybe it is just because they're such a control freak that something not being done perfectly just needles at them, triggers so much for them. But very little of what we do is life or death. In most cases, it's just not that deep, man. You shouldn't be reaming someone out, ruining their day, making them fearful for their job because they made an honest mistake. And I think defaulting to the stance that nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to screw up today. You'll have known yourself when you've worked for people before, if you've messed up, normally the person who feels worst about it is you. So when you're on the flip side of that situation, someone in your team screws something up. I'm recording this episode, and just earlier today we realized that our social media messaging bot, ManyChat, that we use, where we say to people, hey, if you want the link to this episode, just reply with 457 or 462 in the comments and we'll DM you the link. We have a chatbot set up that does that automatically. We just realized today that it had been overlooked, the fact that the Facebook side of that had become disconnected, so people were commenting and the chatbot wasn't working. It sucks, yeah. It was an oversight. Not a mistake, just an oversight. The details not being kept on top of, but it was a small one. Like, really, nobody's business blew up or imploded because they didn't get the DM from us with the podcast episode link. And if it was that big a problem, they would have commented again and said, the link didn't come through. And then we would have done it manually and then looked at things that, oh, something's happened. But yeah, it was just it was an oversight. Not something I want to have happened. Not something I was particularly happy to have discovered happened, but it's not that deep. It's not life or death. Really isn't. Similarly, again, something else this morning. This was both of the same member of the team, and I know they felt terrible about it. And I just had to reiterate, like, I'm chill about this. Stuff happens. Main thing, we know it now. Sort it out. It'll be good for the future. But yeah, another thing, this one with the team, there was a link on a page for an event on the website. There was 2 links so we update the page every time with just the link to the next event. 2 links on the page. One of them still showed last month's event. The other one showed the event from like 3 months ago. Again, not great, not ideal, also not the end of the world. You fix it. You resolve to stay on top of it next time. You implement reminders if you need to, set tasks, and then you get on with your day. But I know so many people who would have taken that opportunity, particularly because it was the same member of staff, because it was 2 little things on one day. They would have blown up. But to what end? Because I know, even though it's a couple of tiny little things, defaulting to the assumption, the generous perspective that, oh, this isn't a sign of things going downhill. It's not a sign of a bigger problem. Giving the benefit of the doubt, having perspective, being compassionate, and realizing it's not that deep. Like, I try to do that. I don't feel I'm a pushover in that respect. I've certainly had to discipline members of the team when it's been needed. I've had to part ways with members of the team where they've just not been delivering at the standard needed. Like, I'm not shy of doing the hard things, but you don't have to make everything a hard thing just to prove that you're the boss, right? Default to the positive. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Give them the most generous assumption about their intention, about their behavior, and about their ability to avoid that in the future. And don't just jump on them and make them feel like crap, because they're probably already feeling much worse than they need to. Like, yeah, just be chill. And I always try and find a way to reward my team. You know, I feel I pay well. I dish out very generous Christmas bonuses. I encourage them into self-study. So I'm really enthusiastically encourage people, if there's anything you want to learn, any event you want to go to, any course you want to take, any books you want to read, that will help you, that you're interested in doing, that will further your skill set, that you feel will be beneficial for us, but also for you as a person, as a professional, we'll pay. I want to do this. I want my team sharpening their skill set. I want to fund that. I want them to know that I'm invested and I'm interested in their continued professional development. So, you know, we've had our designer who's learned entirely new skills. They were just interested in animation. And so we paid for courses for them to learn digital animation. And hey, guess what? We've now got a great designer who can also animate and edit videos. Like, it's a win-win. But also, I don't know if you would have done that if we'd not encouraged that. Beth, our head of growth, has been able to embark on a whole educational pursuit as well with the Chartered Institute of Marketing and work towards qualifications and CPD through there, which again, we enthusiastically encourage, make time for, give time off for, to attend events, allow her to use work time to actually do self-study, CPD, and pay for stuff. So always looking for ways to encourage that study and event, because that leads to greater staff fulfillment. But it also, like, if you just want to look at it selfishly, it means you're getting better trained, better qualified, better equipped staff, right? So doing things like that, very generous with holiday allowance. Every staff member gets their birthday off. I've got to admit, this is purely my immaturity. I made a resolution like when I was like 20 that I was never going to work on my birthday, because my birthday. I care about my birthday. Some people don't. I do. My birthday is a special day. And I certainly, even if I'm not celebrating, I don't want to be going in and working on my birthday. So it's a policy for me. Even when I was employed, it's just a weird coincidence that I was either on holiday or always sick on my birthday. But it's a policy for me to never work on my birthday, so I've made it a policy for my staff that they don't ever have to, so they get their birthday off on top of their regular holidays as well. And yeah, again, that flexibility. People have time off without it needing to come out their holiday allowance. You know, if someone needs to go to the doctors in an afternoon, I'm not going to dock it from their holiday. I've even give Tom, our designer, is another big gaming geek like me. I've given Tom like mornings off to play a new game that's being released because I was taking the morning off to play a new game that's being released. And again, some from a more traditional background will be shaking their head. This isn't the way you're doing it. But you know what? 10 years strong. And it seems to be working. And you know what? My team are very happy. My team deliver the goods. My team do incredible work. I couldn't be happier with everyone on my team. So it's working. So again, none of this is me claiming to be an expert on man management. I am trust me, very, very far from it. But I wanted to share just what I do, how I try, my mentality, my attitude, my mindset, because I do sadly feel that it's uncommon. But every time I do a staff review, so I always, obviously you do yearly staff reviews. Every time I do a staff review, I always end up making the comment of like, this feels like it should be harder. It feels like I should have stuff to tell you off for or stuff to tell you need to improve. But you're doing incredible work. You're such a great asset to the team. Like, this is pretty much universal for everyone on my team. And I honestly think a big part of it is just the things that I've shared today, my mindset, my approach, and just the way I do things. So I wanted to share those with you because I know some of you, even if you've not got a team, you just like to hear how we do things because we are successful membership owners and it's always interesting to get a little glimpse behind the curtain. But also I do think hopefully this will give a different perspective on man management and get you to chill out a little bit more. You can be relaxed. You can be friendly with your team. You can have a positive working environment. You can be flexible. You can not chain your team to their desk from 9 till 5 to make them earn every penny of their salary. You can just focus on the actual work they're doing, the quality and the outputs, without worrying about, well, hey, this work's amazing, but you've only spent 30 hours on it this week, not 35, so you suck. Like, we can change and break the norms, I think, from management and get great results from it. So hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully it's given a little bit of insight. If nothing else, it's just given you a little peek behind the curtains of what we do and how I personally try to be a good boss to my team. That's it from me for this week. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you did, hit me up at not at Mike Morrison. That's my name. At Membership Geeks across social media, or hit me up on LinkedIn. Search for me, Mike Morrison, or search for Membership Geeks. You'll find us on there. I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a message. Pop a comment on our latest post sharing this episode. Send me a DM. I love to talk to our community. I'd love to hear whether any of this resonates, if you have the same mentality. If you disagree with anything I'm doing, I always like to have these conversations. So I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I will see you back here next week for another episode of the Membership Geeks podcast. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the Membership Geeks podcast, we invite you to check out membershipacademy.com. Membership Academy is the original membership about memberships, and it's the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a successful online membership business. Whether you're still trying to figure out what your idea is going to be and you need some help making it a reality, or whether your website is already up and running and you're looking for ways to grow and attract new members, then Membership Academy can help you to get to the next level. Not only do you get access to our step-by-step membership roadmap, our extensive training library, and exclusive member-only discount and tools, you'll also become part of our supportive, active community of membership owners that will help you along the way in your journey with feedback, encouragement, and advice. All of this and more make Membership Academy the #1 place to be for anyone looking to start, manage, and grow a successful membership business. Check it out and join the community at membershipacademy.com.